Deep section wheels are becoming far more popular on road racing bicycles. And with that comes the problem of crosswinds and buffeting, especially if you're a light rider. So manufacturers have changed the design and the profile of these wheels to try and control that buffeting that you get from crosswinds. So let's roll that intro and have a bit of a discussion about how they've made those changes and how do they work. Now the optimum shape for aerodynamics is a knacker shape. Now this shape is basically like a teardrop, when a water droplet's falling through the air. It kind of shapes itself into that shape. So it has a round bulbar section at the front and it comes to a point or very close to a point at the back. And this is the way they used to make rims. But the negative to that is when you have a crosswind or a different air pressure on one side of the rim to the other, then because there's a sharp edge at the back, you get a low pressure on one side and a high pressure on the other side, and the rim wants to move sideways because that's just normal how aerodynamics works. Now what designers have done, they've tried to eliminate or reduce that to some degree. Yeah, to do this, what they've done is instead of bringing the rim to a curved point like this, like a knacker shape, what they've done is they've made the side of the rims more straighter, and then they've put like a round section on the back of the rim. Now this, looking at the rim alone, would compromise the aerodynamics because when it starts to go around that rounder section at the back, it turbulates, which is not what you want the air to do. You want it to come and meet together so the air combines together without causing any turbulence. But we know we've got spokes that exit the rim at that point, and these are going to create turbulence anyway. So by putting that rounded back on the rim, what we're allowing is some of the air to slip around the rim, around the back of the rim, and even up the pressure from one side to the other. So that buffeting feel that you get when you're riding along in a crosswind is somewhat reduced, even though you're compromising the optimum aerodynamics of the rim, but not to that much of a degree because those damn little spokes there are spinning around, turbulating the air anyway. So in conclusion, what manufacturers have done, they've compromised the optimum rim shape for a rounded back, so some of the air can leak around to the other side, which reduces this sideways pressure or buffeting that we get when we're riding along. And the reason why it hasn't affected the overall performance of the bike that much is because the spokes are spinning around at that point anyway, causing turbulence anyway. So they're getting a wheel that's more rideable, that's only slightly less aerodynamics. Well, let's just have a look at the last video, which was a response to Harry Howdy, and what sort of comments that were put down in that video. Well, the first comment we had was related to the Pro Peloton and how they're switching between rim brake and disc brake, but really we're not actually seeing any clear advantage going from one bike to the other at this pro level. And we've had a number of races through the season where rim brakes have won, and obviously in the tour we've had Tajay riding the rim brake on some of the stages and the disc brake on some stages. And I do think that the outright performance difference is very small, which then kind of begs the question, why go to all this redesigning of the whole bike just to put disc brakes on the bike? And you can check out a lot of my other videos to get the answer to that question. But it is interesting that this new technology is not really showing much of an advantage. And the next question was, which I thought was quite funny, was when your disc wheel collapses, it's amazing how much drag your face makes on the road. So I thought that was pretty funny. So he was referring to the antelope loop video I did where the disc wheel at the front collapsed. Now, but that's obviously a pretty rare situation, but in that situation it did show, which we don't really know the full reason why that failed, but I thought that was a pretty funny comment. We had another comment where they were talking about the wheel dragging air backwards onto the fork. And this is why Focus and Orea are making a bigger gap between the tire and the fork crown. Now, I don't really see that's a really good argument from the manufacturers, because if you're going at a very slow speed, I could understand that that air may be overcoming the forward air pressure that you're doing due to your forward movement. But once you get a little bit of speed up, I would probably argue that that tubulated air is being pushed backwards. So yes, a lot of tubulated air is coming off the top of the tyre because that's going twice the speed of the bike. But generally, the bigger the gaps you have, the more turbulated air you create. So I don't really know how that works. You know, if the manufacturers could explain that or give some sort of technical explanation for that, that'd be quite interesting. But going by normal aerodynamic principles, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, this last one, it is true, but doesn't really relate to bicycles. And it's a disc brake is designed to suck air through it. Now, if we look at a disc brake that's on a car, it is very much designed like that. It's designed to suck air through the center and throw it out. And it has two plates and it has like a fan built into it. And that's how it keeps the disc brake cool in the automotive industry. But on a bicycle, it's a little bit more crude. It's just a flat plate and they just drill holes in it, hoping that the air that's going to flow through those holes is going to transition the heat from the disc to the air. Now, this is one of the reasons, I haven't really spoke about this before, but there's not a lot of mass, metal mass in these disc brakes. And the heat, trying to dissipate the heat away from those discs, especially if you're doing a very long hill and you're on the brakes quite a lot, even for a disc brake compared to a rim brake would be a significant challenge. And what you got to argue is on a rim brake bike, you've got a much bigger area that's going around and you're applying less force to a smaller area in the center of the hub that's applying a lot more force. Of course, the total braking force energy that we're putting in slowing the bike up is the same, but you're trying to dissipate the heat from a smaller disc. So that would be a bit of a interesting conversation to have, and maybe we can leave that for another video. Well, anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to leave it, and I will see you next vid. Cheers.